boys and West End girls. In a West End town in a dead end world. The East End boys and West End girls. West End girls. West End girls. Too many shadows, whispering voices, faces on posters, too many choices. If, when, why, what, how much have you got? Have you got it, do you get it? If so, how often? Which do you choose, a hard or soft option? How much do you need? In a Western town, in a dead end world. The East End boys and West End girls. In a Western town, in a dead end world. The East End boys and West End girls. West End girls. West End girls. You got a heart of glass or a heart of stone. Just you wait till I take you home. We've got no future, we've got no past. Here today, built to last. In every city and every station. From Lake Geneva to the Finland station. How far have you been? In a Western town, a dead end world. The Eastern boys and West End girls. In a Western town, in a dead end world. The Eastern boys and West End girls. West End girls. West End girls. West End girls. Sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water, and I think of all the things and what you're doing. In my head I bring a picture. Since I'm coming home, well my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come over? Some making a fool out of me. Why don't you come over, Valerie? Valerie, Valerie, Valerie. Did you have to go to jail and put your house up for sale? Did you get a good lawyer? I hope you did and catch it then. Hope you find the right man who fix it for you. Are you shopping anywhere? You change the color of your hair. Are you busy? And did you have to pay that fine? Did you indulge in all the time? Are you still dizzy? Since I've come home, well my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come on over? Still making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Valerie, Valerie. Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water, and I think of all the things and what you're doing. In my head I'll bring a picture. Since I'm coming home, well my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come over? Someone making a fool out of me. Why don't you come over, Valerie? Valerie, Valerie, Working at the convenience store. Don't say I didn't warn ya. All the good girls go to hell, 'cause even God herself has enemies and wants the water stars to rise and heaven's out of sight. She wants the devil on her team. My Lucifer is lonely. There's nothing left to say now. My God is gonna own me. There's nothing left to say now. My Lucifer is lonely. My Lucifer is lonely. I just can't get enough. 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 When I'm with you, baby, I go out of my head. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. All the things you do to me and everything you said. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. We slip and slide as we fall in love, and I just can't seem to get enough of. We walk together, we're walking down the street. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. Every time I think of you, I know we have to meet. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. It's getting harder, it's a burning love, and I just can't seem to get enough of. And when it rains, you're shining down for me, and I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. Just like a rainbow, you know you set me free, and I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. You're like an angel and you give me your love, and I just can't seem to get enough of. I just can't get enough. 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 I just can't get enough.
Do you want me in disguise? Do you want me to change my mind on things I can't hide? This is fucking real. Could be something I said, could be something I did this time. Maybe it's you instead. You just blew up my mind. We were covering the light, but you know disguise? Do you want me to change my mind on things I can't hide? This is fucking real. Could be something I said, could be something I did this time. Maybe it's you instead. You just blew up my mind. We were covering the light, but you know we'll have to fight for the night of our sins and our lives to begin. For the night of our sins and our lives to begin.
Let's start in style, let's dance for a while. Heaven can wait, we're only watching the skies. Hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. Are you gonna dump the bomb or not? Let us die young, or let us live forever. We don't have the power, but we never say never. Digging in a sandpit, life is a short trip.
so you may send them and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Please consider that this session is being recorded. Today, Juan Manuel Rojas joins us, Chairman of Promigas, as we also have the financial team. I give the floor to Manuel, who will give the results for this quarter. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Juliana. Welcome to these results for the 2022 year. I would like to begin. Particularly, I want to highlight, firstly, the following cumulative results till June that our company group has been presenting. These results can be seen where we have had an increase of 19%. We have an EBITDA margin of 700 trillion. We've also had some net revenue of where we've experienced growth of 10%. Another important event in this quarter is related to the currently we have 42.2 megawatts in installed capacity, of which a good part are solar generated megawatts, 27.1 megawatts. In self-generation, 15.3 megawatts. And in operation and maintenance, we have 73% of energy solutions that we've experienced in the last quarter of another important event
donde tuvimos
where we've had the fortune of being able to formalize a strategic alliance with Sumitomo Corporation based on the inauguration we did for our green hydrogen pilot in the La Heroica station in Cartagena, with the purpose of being able to advance in electrical mobility with hydrogen in Colombia and in Peru. Speaking of Peru, I would like to remark two important aspects that also constituted milestones in the second quarter. The first one is related to the approval of the Peruvian regulator of the Cálida rate, very aligned with what we were expecting in the regulatory revenue in this important investment that we have in Peru. And on second place, and by the way, we feel very proud of this, is related to the rendering of service of gas line operations in northern Peru. In June 30, we had an advancement of 90% in the project. We can mention that this gas line is operational right now. And part of the directive team is traveling to Peru to its formal and official inauguration, despite the fact that in July, we've had some service issues. Lastly, I want to mention that we had the ratification of AAA rating by Fitch Ratings. So now let us take a look at the operational results of the period by business. And here in gas transportation, in liquefied service and natural gas, I can highlight that the transported volume of gas by June 2022 is 7% above what we had in the first semester of 2021, reaching 472 million cubic feet per day. We've had, however, a reduction of an average of liquefied natural gas in a good measure, as we've seen, because we are in a very rainy year. In terms of industry solutions, we continue with our commitment in servicing our customers in the oil and gas industry. We've attained the construction of 21 kilometers during the first semester of the year, and we maintain our gas line maintenance services in 2,756 kilometers. Let us now take a look at the results by business in distribution by June. And here I want to make a stop in 4 aspects. The first one is related to in users. We are above 4.06 million users in Colombia. On second place, in Peru, we had an increase of 25% in connected users. This is a very important milestone because in Peru, we have more than 1,600,000 gas users. On third place, we've increased the coverage in populations in Peru in 12%. So now we're servicing 76 populations. And if we add the populations that we service in Colombia and Peru in gas, we reach 963. And if we add the populations that we service with electrical energy, we're above 1,000 populations between Colombia and Peru that are receiving our services. On fourth place, I would like to remark that we're about to reach a milestone of gas sales in distribution of 6,000 million cubic feet. We reached by June 30 the 6,989 cubic feet. We've had an increase of 4%. I also want to remark the breakthroughs we've made through Brilla in non-banking financing. We've placed 130 million, and we have a user base of 767,000 users that currently use this service. This is a business that I call a new business that we've been advancing in Colombia for 15 years. And by June 30, we've launched the Brilla app, through which we are operating. These 767,000 users are operating their credits. So now let us move to the financial results of the period due by a strategic group, and specifically with the second quarter of 2022. Here, I would like to remark 2 things. Firstly, the important increase we've had in revenue of 11%. In increase, we've reached 1,000,402. And by the second quarter of 2022, although we've experienced a drop in net revenue this second quarter in around 10%, explained by financial expenses and greater interest rates and increase of rent taxes. If we take a look at the accumulative by June, we can see that the accumulation to June renders some impacting numbers in revenue. Compared to the same semester in 2021, we had an increase of 19%, explained by a greater market share rate to which we adjust our rates. And also we explain because we can bill Copetron through the Reficar contract, the greatest transportation of gas, and also explain through the disaster we had in Promi Oriente. We had some great losses. So this great increase of almost 20% happened due to these 3 reasons. This implied an increase of our EBITDA margin during this semester in almost 20%, 19.5%. In a good sense, due to these larger incomes and larger expenditures, and an increase of net revenue of 10%. Here, I want to highlight once again what we've said in other presentations. There's a good balance that we have between the transportation business and the distribution business, where both the EBITDA and the revenue is distributed almost in an equitative way between the two strategic business groups. In EBITDA, 54% and net revenue, 56%. In distribution, 44% in transportation. Let us continue. So regarding individual financial results in Promigas in the second quarter 2022, here I want to highlight an increase of 14% in income, as I was mentioning before, mainly because larger billing, because of greater market share. We had on our second quarter 3,091 pesos per dollar, and before the margin was lower. The EBITDA had a reduction of 3% due to a reduction of income in the participation method because of the NIF 15 norms, because of important construction breakthrough we had in 2021, and a drop in net revenue of 1% in second quarter, as I mentioned, because of greater financial expenditure. Let us remember that the IPC increased 40%. If we take a look at the following slide and we look at the individual cumulative results by June, we see that in the accumulation, there's an important contrast by June regarding what we experienced in the second quarter of 2022. Particularly, we have in the accumulation consolidating 26% increase in income in Promigas, an increase of 18% in EBITDA, and an increase of 10% in net revenue, reaching almost 700 million pesos, proving in all fronts and performance way above what we expected. In net revenue, an execution of 16% above. Let us continue. Let us take a look briefly at the results in regards to operation and industrial safety. And here I want to highlight two important points. The evolution of corporate loss. We reach only 0.25%, which is very below the 1% demanded by the regulations. And the evolution of the operative continuity indicator, where we have a continuity indicator of 99.98.8%, very in line with our commitment for excellence in rendering all of our services. I want to highlight that in transported volumes, we had an increase of industrial consumption between April and June, particularly due to an increase in the sector of Cartagena and cement refineries. So this is the reason we had a major increase. This is an element that differentiates consumption, industrial consumption in April and June 2021 from the last year period. Here, I would like to mention the breakthroughs we've made in safety. And we have aligned with DuPont SS an exercise to strengthen safety culture in our corporate culture. And this project has a duration of 3 years, where we've been working in safety diagnosis. We've been awarded and rated as independent. This is a very good rating compared to our peer experts. What DCC calls interdependence. So we're moving along that direction, making workshops throughout different parts of the organization. And this project will move on to a phase where we will begin with an action plan in order to close the gaps that we've identified in such a way that we can consider ourselves with the greatest interdependence rating in a 3-year period. This is a step-by-step process, but we're advancing in the right direction. And we're very pleased to communicate that we're very well graded in comparison to our peers. This not only in Promigas, but throughout all our group. Another relevant fact that we want to highlight is related to what we accomplish in innovation. And here, I would like to mention two things. The first thing, Compañía Energética Occidense launched the first intelligent transformer developed with Universidad del Valle, where this prototype, we expect to promote it in the rest of our operations. And on second place, I mentioned this is an important highlight, is related to the signing of the agreement with Sumitomo in order to explore opportunities in electric mobility with Colombia and Peru and hydrogen. We see in Sumitomo a strategic ally because they have all the experience in one of the countries that most have advanced in hydrogen, such as Japan. So we see important opportunities in this front for Colombia and Peru. And we've had 2 visits since we signed the alliance with Sumitomo. So we're assessing opportunities in electrical mobility through this. If we move on to results specific to the second quarter in transport group, as you well know, in the transport group, we have Transmetano, Promioriente, Transoccidente, Promisol, and SPEC. In this regard, in regards to natural gas transportation, Promigas as such had an increase in regards to the second quarter 2021 in transported volumes in a good sense because of a greater thermal generation in the Atlantic coast compared to the same period in last year, which shows an increase. In the non-thermal electrical sector in vehicle gas, we continue growing in consumption in 80% in transported gas for this sector before the pandemic, if we compare. If we specifically take a look through allies, we see that Promioriente has levels very much in line with what we had, 35 million cubic feet in cumulative volume for second quarter, and now 36 million cubic feet for the second quarter 2022. And these have varied slightly in their volumes, whereas Transmetano did present an increase in volumes by the second quarter 2022 compared to 2021, increasing in 4 million cubic feet per day due to a new contract signed with PepsiCo, which positively affected volumes. And Transoccidente increased 42% in transported volumes. For 100% of the capacity, so 42% increase in the second quarter compared to 2021. SPEC, as already mentioned, at the beginning had a lesser regasification volume in a good sense because thermal generation compared last year has been done with local gas and not with imported gas. And furthermore, it has been a very rainy year. I also mentioned that in June, the availability of our regasifying plant was 100%. And we've been demonstrating 5 years of operations. And we're an asset that brings trust to electrical generation in Colombia, because each time it has been required, it has been available.
Pasamos a los resultados.
If we move on to the result,
Grupo Estratégico de Negocio y Distribución en el segundo trimestre 2022.
By the second quarter 2022,
Son
we're
muy
going to see that they are very motivating. We've been experiencing growth in Peru. Here, we had an increase in the volume of transported natural gas. I mentioned we're almost nearly close to 6,000 million cubic feet per day, an increase of electric consumption through our central companies, Compañía Occidente in Cauca, a substantial increase in the number of users. We had more than 6 million users in natural gas and energy. In gas, 5,608,000, and in energy, 430,000. We've serviced more than 1,000 populations with a significant variation, and as mentioned, the placing of Brigia, which has been consistent. And now we will look at these figures, which have been very much controlled. We feel very proud of this business. The EBITDA of the distribution business grew 20% if we compare the second quarter of 2021 with the second quarter of 2022. Let us take an in-depth look to Brigia. This second quarter, 767,000 users have 1.5 thousand million pesos. And this year we've accumulated 408,003 million. I want to highlight that these credits in 47% go for social economic level 1, 36% for level 2, and the rest for level 3. This has a significant social impact, what we are doing with Brigia, because these are users of credits that generally do not have access to the financial system, to the traditional financial system. And they have this excellent tool available in order to finance their needs. If we take a look at who assigns these credits, we see that 1/3 goes for improving their housing, the most vulnerable people in the country. Third part is being destined for mobility, and the remainder is being distributed between education and home supplies and goods. So this is an important tool for financing for vulnerable populations in Colombia. As a relevant aspect, I also want to highlight the launching of Brigia app for franchise companies. This new sales channel demonstrates that we evolve the way we relate with our customers. Our clients have at the palm of their hands and their mobile phones a tool that show multiple service acquisition and product acquisition tools. So this is very relevant, and we feel very proud and glad about this. And this has rendered important financial results in EBITDA compared with the same period in 2021 was 20,000 million, and Brigia reached 121 million pesos in EBITDA margin for the second quarter. If we take a look at energy solutions, soluciones energéticas, as we saw in the board of directors of Promigas, authorized that we consolidate this strategic business group. And as we mentioned at the beginning, this has been functioning favorably in this front, particularly in solar energy distribution and generation. We had growth of 73% compared to the same period in last year. What comprises this strategic business group? 3 lines: solar, self-generation, and sustainable mobility. Here, by June 2022, we had, as I mentioned, 27.1 installed megawatts, of which we have 14.4 in operation, and in construction, 12.7, 24 contracts functioning effectively. In self-generation, we have 15.3 megawatts, 8.8 in operation, and in construction, 6.5. And here we expect to continue growing importantly. We have 4 contracts with total capacity of 42 megawatts. If we also count the front line of maintenance and operation, we have to make a small correction here. In regards to sustainable mobility, we've been advancing with a demand of 10.2 cubic feet per day, what we do in Surtigas and GDO, and in Peru, we've been advancing effectively with almost 1 million cubic feet per day. So in this front line, we've been evolving very favorably with important growth, and we will be showing this quarterly. And looking at this in terms of results, we feel very glad about this. In regards of corporate aspects of sustainable management, I want to highlight 4 programs that we've been implementing in Promigas. The first one is related to the efforts by the Fundación, the foundation, for implementing programs that will allow a greater employability of young people. These current programs are impacting 3,500 young people as direct beneficiaries. 93% of the young people have graduated, 40% of graduates have a formal employment, and these are young people who start with salaries that are above the minimum wage in average with 1,350,000 pesos. With this program, we're reaching 30 municipalities in the country, and particularly in areas that have been classified as vulnerable, as PEDET. In entrepreneurship, the foundation has advanced, supporting 515 entrepreneurships, strengthening business models, and with an impact on 990 direct beneficiaries in training processes for entrepreneurship. We also began a program in Cauca to benefit 150 women for their economic autonomy. And in this front line, we reached 22 municipalities in the country, out of which 18 are considered PEDET. On the second quarter of 2022, also in the most productive communities, we were working in 199 productive units, strengthening their processes with 579 direct beneficiaries. And in this case, we reached 9 municipalities. And lastly, in environment matters, we also have been making advancements with initiatives that seek for a greater biodiversity. In the second quarter of 2022, we began a program in the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta with 128 indigenous families that benefited 640 persons, supporting 40 family greenhouses and community greenhouses. So this way, 64,000 plants will be planted. In human rights, we've also advanced. We are filling a self-evaluation from human rights for relating with communities with the purpose of identifying opportunities for strengthening our management. We began an alliance with the Desarrollo y Paz program in Cesar and Guajira to make trust building in Waju communities and Wicca communities in our influence area of our gas line. This will allow us to work in development programs and social programs in our social and governance and environmental issues. In climate issues, we've also made advancement in forest restoration. We signed an agreement with NGO with the Arawak community in Sierra Nevada, Santa Marta, where we expect an impact of planting 64,000 trees in order to restore 128 degraded hectares, training young Arawaco communities and capturing carbon information in order to analyze implementation. Now I will give the floor to my colleague Aquiles Mercado, our CFO, so we can get into detail of our financial states. Thank you. Thank you, Juan Manuel. Good morning, everyone who is joining us in this results report. As we can observe, our financial status in Promigas by the second quarter of 2022-2021 show an increase of 14% by passing from 2,004 million pesos to 162,563,000. In regards to the EBITDA, we had a drop of 6%, And now up next, we will explain the reasons. And the net revenue, a drop in this specific trimester of 10%. In regards to income, we had a 22% of the budget. However, we had an increase of 14% as we were looking right now. And this increase is because the greater market share in billing, because now we have the exchange rate in dollars. Now, said rate passed from 301, and in 2021 it was in 3,866 per dollar. This joined to the volume of transport material increase mainly in thermal electrical sector, representing 82%. The EBITDA, which reached 365,091 million pesos, which is a drop of 3%, but a compliance of 104% compliance in budget. It's because of the reduction of gas participation because of the law NIF 15, because in 2021 we had important construction breakthroughs in CapEx activities registered this year. We had growth in participation in investments such as Cálida, Gases de Occidente, Promisol, which accounted for the drop in the greatest costs and expenditures presented by the renovation in June in insurance policies, then because of the market behavior which affected all sectors of the economy, the expenditures due to trips and public services were overcome by the pandemic. The net revenue reached 700% as our financial. We have the best income in participation and greatest costs and expenditures, we also mentioned. In addition to this is a trend in a local level which observes a growth in financial expenditure, but in addition, a trend of interest rate rising in this parameter compared to the bonds we've made in Colombian pesos in the local market. And regarding the financial statuses, the cumulative status by June 2022, by the end of the complete quarter, we see an increase of 26% in income, compliance of 101%, EBITDA grew 18%, also reaching a relevant 115% of budget use, and net revenue grew 10% by reaching 659,548 pesos. Regarding the income, we've seen in the exchange rate, which has been rising between the analyzed period, close to 771 pesos compared to 2021. And we had a factor here that was very important in income increase because Ecopetrol was built due to anticipated termination of the contract that they had with us for the Cartagena refinery, which brought an extraordinary income of 306 million pesos. It's important to highlight that this contract was renovated with a capacity close to 770 million and has been extended for 13 years. We transported 4 million cubic gas compared to last year. The EBITDA margin, which we already mentioned, exceeds the budget in 15%, is due to operational income and controlled operations and participation methods, which reflects good results for the companies that comprise the Promigas portfolio. Regarding net revenue, as a final line of our financial stakes, we accumulate the great financial revenue generated by the loans to companies in our. This made a drop by financial expenditure due to a greater balance because of all the capex we had from last year, the rising trend of interest rates, and the greater IPC. We had a greater current rate rise before the taxes and by the change of the applied rate that passed from 31% to 33% for Promigas, and in compliance of what the tax reform 2021 establishes. If we go to our general balance, we can inform an increase of 5% in assets of the company that reached 9.8 thousand million. If we analyze the main, we had the current asset that represents 56%, 46% of our assets, an increase of 56, and mainly originate by the dividends by the companies that are allied and are accounted as accounts to be paid. The financial asset consequent with our transportation concession and the companies that we keep control with these concession contracts, this includes macroeconomic variables necessary for calculating, which corresponds to charges to be made. And the other assets are registered in the compañías with a capitalization we made in Gas Nord, a subsidiary in Peru, in order to strengthen their general balance in debt equity structure, and which is compensated in its rubric by the dividends of the companies that are ascribed by March 2022. In regards to liabilities, we have an increase of 9% by the date, mainly because of the ordinary and extraordinary dividends decreed by Promigas, which according to the accounting procedures will be paid throughout the year, but are counted as bills to be paid in the moment of being decreed and to be transferred to a long-term liability in these decrees that expire in April 2022. The long-term liability dropped, which is counteracted with the increase in debt in dollar because of the greater exchange rate. This difference is it's covered naturally based on our foreign investment. That is all. Regarding the consolidated debt, in order to end this financial status, we can observe a detail of the debt and product. In regards to bonds, we are strongly concentrated in capital market, not only in Colombia, but in the United States and in international market. The debt by the date of second quarter 2022 is 55% in Colombian pesos, 42% in dollars, and 3% in soles peruanos. The consolidated debt is 6.97 thousand million, 11% increase by June 2021. And what we've been mentioning, if we observe the table on the right, the rates by 2021 on average captured 4.1%, and by June 2022, simply due to the behavior of macroeconomic variables, 8.08. We can observe in detail the Eduardo Compañía. The pair two is Promigas with 56% of the total debt, and Wabi with 23% of the debt, which are our operations in Peru, due to the important capex requirement in this country. And in regards to debt, Juan Manuel mentioned it, on June 6, in Fitch rating, ratified the rating at a local level with AAA, the highest credit level that a rating company can give us. With this, Juan Manuel, we end our financial balances. And now I give the floor to you. Thank you, Achilles. Now, if you please, we will open our Q&A session for our audience. We have several questions from Ricardo Sandoval from Bancolombia. I'm going to read them one by one. The first one is, Can you please make a comment on the regulatory change in remuneration in gas transportation that will move from dollars to pesos in Colombia and its impacts? Ricardo, thank you very much for your question. As you well know, in November 2021, the CREG, through the Resolution 175, published a methodology for transportation for natural gas. And based on this, the transporting companies presented their rate requests in February 2022. This is the particular case of Promigas. And the update of positions is made in two different moments in time. One first update is made in 1st of September 2022, what we call the first application, where we are updating the rates with the capital cost rate, where it lowers from 15.02% to 10.94%. And also we update the money from dollars to pesos using the exchange rate of 2021. In this moment also, by September 1 this year, we will update the investment variable with the resulting values of normative use life cost and assets that expired before December 2020. So this is the first application. The second one would happen in July 2023. And in this moment, we would make an integral recalculation, updating investment variables, operation, maintenance, and management, and estimations for demand. And in regards to this first update, we will expect an impact that will not overcome 3% of reduction of our income, 29 to 30,000 million pesos, due to the effect of precisely of this updating of the normative useful life of our discount rate and our exchange rate. Now, in July next year, we would expire when we have the second application to an increase of positions in around 15 to 20% for greater revenue in function of new investments and updating of management, maintenance, expenditure. I expect that I answer your question here. The second question from Ricardo Sandoval. He asks us to speak a bit about the management we've been conducting regarding the debt in order to reduce risks. I will ask our CFO to help us with this question. In this moment, Ricardo, we have a policy that is very conservative regarding debt management. Second place, in this moment, we're looking at how much debt could we require to make the CapEx plan for this year at a corporate level. In this moment, we're analyzing bond emissions, local bond emissions by the end of the year, because in this moment, we still do not have a relevant summoner to make an emittance. Let us remember that Promigas renewed the bond emittance program as a recurrent emittent, and it overcomes the 1,000 million pesos. However, today, if we would emit everything, we would have a negative carry and negative impact in our financials. So we are taking this in pesos because CapEx is focusing in Colombian subsidiaries and dollar credits for the subsidiaries we have in Peru, which function in dollars, so they're covered. And in the case of Promigas, we have a natural coverage because of the investment we have in these companies. We're analyzing the market regarding rate trends, but however, this is a trend that is generalized, and we're attempting to optimize the mixture of rates between fixed and variable and the terms. Thank you, Aquiles. Now we will move on with the third question by Ricardo Sandoval from Canacol. Mentioned that they're about to sign a contract for building a gas pipe for Medellin. Are you competing in this contract?
Gracias, Ricardo.
Thank you, Ricardo. This project of building a gas line from Ovo to Antioquia has been assessed in Promigas throughout several years. In addition to this date, our group, particularly our Promisol subsidiary, has important breakthroughs in environment and social matters that will allow to develop this gas line for the moment when the market requires it. So specifically going to your question, our subsidiary Promisol is participating in Tanacol in order to build the gas line from Jobo to the national transportation system in Transmetano, a process over which we want to make offer within the established terms. We will receive it from Canacol soon. Thank you. Another question from Ricardo Sandoval. Have you studied any impact from the tax reform in Colombia for the company? Ricardo, yes, we have studied it. It is very important to specify that at this moment, the reform is a law project that has been approved. So in the project as such, we've studied preliminarily which could be the impacts. Obviously, we have to highlight that this has to follow a process through the Congress of the Republic, and normally in these projects, the reforms end up being very different to the initially proposed projects. However, considering the project as it is today, if we had the proposal as it is right now by 2021, we would reflect an impact of around 400,000 million pesos. Individual level in Promigas, 331,000 million. This does not represent a cash box, but it is important to mention that this impact will occur in occasional earnings to 30%. So this would be the most important impact. For the rest of it, there are not significant impacts, which are related to suspending the tax discount in ICA tax. The consolidated impact will not overcome the 1,000 million pesos. So initially, this is the main impact. We also establish in the reform a limit for the non-rent constitutive income because they cannot exceed 30% of the liquid rent. Since Promigas currently does not exceed the limit and has space, so we do not see an impact in this regard. We also see an impact in our investors, specifically in national people. If the retention of 39% is applied to them, approximately, let us remember that it's in 10% in received dividends. This would have an impact in the versatile character and their market value. So we have faith that particularly several of these points that are consolidated in the reform would be reconsidered, not only because of the impact it would have in the community and in the capital, but in the negative impact on companies. Thank you. We have several questions from Rodrigo Sanchez from Da Vivienda Corredores. The first one is, considering compliance in the budget, could you please share the updated expectation in the consolidated level of EBITDA income and net revenue from the comptroller of Promigas? Thank you, Rodrigo, for the question. In this moment, we expect to maintain the results in the year as they are right now. We still have some time to go. We have a strong impact in our financial because of the interest rates that are affecting our corporate area. this could subtract even keeping our debt level in the current levels. So we aspire so that clearly we want to execute the budget, and considering what Manuel mentioned in the tax reform, it wouldn't have an impact in cash box, but it would in net revenue, and in the execution of 116, it could reduce 8.9% only because of rates regarding our consolidated debt. Thank you, Aquiles. We have another question from Rodrigo Sanchez. What is the intermediation margin in Brilla business, and what is the funding cost for this operation? Thank you, Rodrigo. The intermediation margin or Brilla is similar to the one charged by credit cards. Now, if we take a look at this intermediation margin, we can mention that it's for the type of user and the type of profile. It would be beneficial for them because the banks would not rate it with the same risk level we do. So in this sense, we believe that users will favorably benefit of this intermediation margin.
Una última pregunta.
One last question from Rodrigo Sanchez from Davivienda Corredores. What is your opinion regarding the government's comments in the possibility of importing gas from Venezuela in the future? Thank you, Rodrigo. We consider that imported gas come from where it come is an option that Colombia cannot close its doors to. It's important to consider this, not depending on importation sources for gas. So we must develop our internal resources. Colombia has important potential in internal resources for being developed. Recently, we saw the results for exploratory wells. Ecopetrol did with Petrobras in the Colombian Caribbean in Uchua, Tayrona. We saw the results of Ecopetrol with Shell in the Gulf in front of Coveñas, called KGG, with a very good result in Gorgon. And I hope we could develop our internal reservoirs in addition to what companies are doing in Piedemonte and Magdalena and Sinusa, San Jacinto Basin. Very importantly, not to lose our energy sovereignty and self-sufficiency with internal sources. Importation sources are welcome in order to bring reliability to the system when it requires so. Specifically, Venezuela, we believe that we would be exposed as a country if we were to depend on this source, not only in a geopolitical risk, but to climate risk as well, because when Colombia needs this gas, Venezuela can also need it as well, because they will also be affected by the El Fenómeno del Niño. So it is good to have the option, but not to depend on it. We have several questions from Estefania Mosquera from Credicor Capital. I will read them all. We've spoken about these issues, but perhaps there's something to add, and we can do it right now. Could you please give us an update in regulations in Colombia in distribution and transportation? When do you expect to have the income for transportation in pesos? When do you expect the update in rates and distribution? Do you see any impact in these changes? Estefania, thank you very much. I believe that the first question around transport regulation was already answered when we answered Ricardo's question. Once again, the first application of the processes in rate adjustment is done in September. I remind you that the application is from new WAC, from 12% to 10.94%. In regards to specification, it's done by September 1st, and normative useful life assets will be done by 2020. The second integral application we'd expect by July 2023, and here we would update administration, maintenance, and operation costs and new demands. So this application in transportation initially, now in September, has an impact that does not overcome 300 pesos, but the one we expect from July would have a benefit, increasing our income between 15 to 20%. This in regards to transport rates. In regards to distribution rates, the methodology also was expressed last year. We have incorporated our rates, and we are expected to be notified with the new rates by the new semester of the year. In our plans, independent from the update, we are expecting for this notification of this resolutions for distribution to be done in the second quarter of the next year. In commercialization rates, we are expecting to have a signing of these new rates soon, hopefully before 2022. We have time for one last question. Questions that arrive later, we will answer them in writing to the emails. The last question is, what are the expectations of the company regarding dividend distribution for 2023 and the behavior of action with the policies by the new government? This is made by Ricardo Rios, independent investor. Ricardo, thank you for your question. Well, we haven't taken a look at dividends. What we who provide the information, we do not always have, we make recommendations to have the necessary resources for CAPEX programs that we receive in the budget, not only for Promigas, but on a corporate level. Then for the operation and maintenance area, all the OPEX, these are intense years in these activities. And then after this, we consider a monitoring that is very careful of our EBITDA debt margins for maintaining our AAA rating internationally. Based on this exercise, we make advisory but the assembly will decide what to do, how to meet the mounting of dividends. Thank you, Achilles. I will give the floor to Juan Manuel once again. Thank you, Juliana. So to all the persons who are connected and joining our call, thank you very much for listening and hearing our results. I would like to close by ratifying about the excellent results that we've consolidated by June, where the company and the group once again demonstrates our commitment with investors and with our stakeholders in regards to results, not only in finance, but in social areas. In finance, we've seen how in the year we've been 19% EBITDA compared to last year period. In net revenue, we are 10% above compared to same period last year. We've significantly advanced. And on a social level, we produced a very positive impact on the communities with which we operate. I would also like to mention and ratify that natural gas, compared to other fossil fuels, has been in the Colombian matrix throughout the last 47 years in a very important manner, changing the lives of many Colombians. Specifically, if you take a look at these 5,600,000 users we have, more than 80% users are socioeconomic levels 1, 2, 3, and we've changed their life by reducing their energy poverty, their multidimensional poverty, and their financial poverty. But how? By increasing their life quality significantly, by increasing their income, specifically in saving money for them, and ensuring that natural gas is still in the basket of all Colombian homes. We are committed to this, contributing to the necessary infrastructure in order to reach all these 5,606,000 users we have, and the users we have in electrical energy with innovative energy solutions. The other thing I want to highlight is a good balance, both in distribution and in transportation, where we see this financial position is solid and it's balanced between these two segments, transportation and distribution. So pretty much we continue this positive diversification, and now we're significantly growing in Peru and diversifying where we believe we can achieve what we've achieved in Colombia in our brother countries. So we continue working in this direction in order to provide our investors excellent results. Thank you very much.